The town of Hollow Creek was a place untouched by time. Nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering willows, it exuded a tranquility unknown to the outside world. Life here moved at a slower pace, measured by the changing seasons and the gentle rhythm of the creek that gave the town its name. Days in Hollow Creek were painted in hues of gold and amber, the aroma of freshly baked bread wafted from kitchen windows, a comforting promise of warmth and nourishment. Evenings were a time for shared stories and quiet contemplation. But beneath the idyllic surface, a change was brewing. The first sign was the disappearance of Old Man Hemlock, a recluse who lived at the edge of the woods. People whispered, their breath misting in the cool morning air. Then young Emily Carter went missing. Her favorite doll lay abandoned in the park, its porcelain face frozen in a perpetual smile. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced the town's heart. Stories, whispered in hushed tones, began to circulate. A palpable sense of dread settled over Hollow Creek, heavy and suffocating. One moonless night, Martha Jenkins, a widow known for her sharp wit and even sharper eyesight, saw it. A flicker of red, like a dying ember, in the window of the old abandoned church on the hill. The church, with its crumbling facade and boarded-up windows, had always been a source of macabre fascination for the town's children. Now, it seemed, their childish fears were given a terrifyingly real form. Word spread like wildfire, igniting the already simmering fear into full-blown panic. The townspeople, armed with pitchforks and kitchen knives, gathered outside the church, their faces illuminated by flickering lanterns. The heavy oak doors creaked open, revealing a figure shrouded in shadow. This was a vampire, and it had come to claim Hollow Creek as its own. The days after the vampire's appearance were shrouded in fear and uncertainty. The townsfolk, once so full of life, now moved like ghosts, their faces drawn and pale. The laughter of children was replaced by the heavy silence of dread. One evening, as the sun began its slow descent, a stranger rode into town. His name was Silas, he announced, a traveler seeking shelter for the night. He was tall and imposing, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to see too much. But beneath his charming facade, a darkness lurked, a secret agenda that would soon plunge Hollow Creek into unimaginable terror. The disappearances continued, each one more unsettling than the last. Young and old, rich and poor, no one seemed safe from the unseen predator that stalked the night. One night, under the pale glow of a waning moon, young Billy Granger, his eyes wide with terror, stumbled into the town square. He had been playing in the woods when he saw it. He gasped, a creature of darkness, its eyes glowing red in the night. Billy's story, though met with skepticism by some, sent a fresh wave of fear through Hollow Creek. The townsfolk, desperate for answers, turned to Silas, drawn to his air of quiet authority. His words, though offering a glimmer of hope, seemed to hang heavy in the air, pregnant with an unspoken threat. Silas, now the town's self-proclaimed savior, proposed a plan. They would offer a sacrifice, he explained, a blood offering to appease the creature that haunted their nights. His words, though chilling, resonated with the townsfolk's desperation. They agreed to Silas's plan, their desperation outweighing their better judgment. The following night, under the watchful gaze of a blood-red moon, the townsfolk gathered in the town square. Silas, his face illuminated by flickering torches, presided over the grim ceremony. Mary Thatcher, a young woman known for her kindness and gentle spirit, had drawn the marked straw. The following morning, Mary Thatcher's lifeless body was found at the edge of the woods, drained of all blood. Her death, a brutal confirmation of their worst fears, sent shockwaves through Hollow Creek. The townsfolk, their faces etched with horror and guilt, realized the true cost of their desperation. But it was too late. Silas, his eyes gleaming with an unholy light, watched it all unfold, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. The vampires had claimed Hollow Creek as their own, and no one was safe. Fear hung heavy in the air, a suffocating blanket stifling any flicker of defiance in Hollow Creek. Homes once filled with laughter and the aroma of baking bread stood empty, their windows dark and lifeless. Whispers of the missing, their names etched in the hearts of loved ones, swirled through the desolate streets. Old Man Hemlock, Emily Carter, Mary Thatcher. Their faces, once familiar and comforting, now haunted the dreams of those who dared to sleep. The missing, the whispers claimed, were not dead, not in the traditional sense. They were being kept alive. Prisoners in the vampire's lair, their blood harvested for a sinister purpose. Driven by a desperate hope and fueled by simmering rage, a small group of townsfolk decided to investigate the whispers. Led by Thomas, a blacksmith whose burly physique belied a keen mind and a compassionate heart, they vowed to uncover the truth about the missing townsfolk. Their search led them to the abandoned Blackwood Manor, a once grand estate now shrouded in an eerie silence. Steeling themselves, the group cautiously approached the manor, their footsteps echoing in the unnerving silence. As they ventured deeper into the manor's darkened corridors, they stumbled upon a sight that turned their blood to ice. The manor's once grand ballroom had been transformed into a gruesome blood farm. Horror washed over the group as they took in the scene before them. The townsfolk were barely recognizable, their skin pallid and stretched taut over jutting bones. Tubes snaked from their arms, connected to intricate glass contraptions that hummed with an eerie energy.
We'll get you out of here, I promise.
Sarah gasped, tears welling in her eyes as she recognized her younger brother David among the captives.
They're being drained slowly, kept alive just long enough to regenerate their blood for the next harvest.
His words hung heavy in the air, a chilling reminder of the vampire's cruelty. The group, their hearts heavy with grief and rage, knew they had to act fast.
We may be outmatched, but we are not defeated. They may have taken our loved ones, but they will not break our spirits. We will fight back, for them, for ourselves, for Hollow Creek.
His words, spoken with quiet conviction, ignited a spark of hope in their hearts.
We need to disrupt their operation, destroy the contraptions, free the captives, and make this place too hot for them to handle.
His plan, though risky, offered a glimmer of hope in their desperate situation. They would become the thorns in the vampire's sides, the whispers of rebellion that would hopefully blossom into a storm of defiance. With a shared look of grim determination, the group finalized their plan. They would gather what few weapons they could find: farming implements, kitchen knives, anything that could be used to inflict damage. Samuel would prepare a sedative from his collection of herbs, a potent concoction that could buy them precious time. Under the cover of darkness, they would infiltrate the blood farm, their knowledge of the manor's layout their only guide. The fate of their loved ones, the fate of Hollow Creek, rested on their shoulders. They were fighting for the soul of their town, for the flicker of humanity that still burned bright within them. The night was a suffocating blanket, heavy with the stench of blood and fear. Guided by the pale glow of the blood moon, the group crept towards Blackwood Manor. Each rustle of leaves sent shivers down their spines, a reminder of the lurking danger. Thomas led the way, clutching a heavy iron poker, his heart hammering against his ribs. Sarah, pale but resolute, followed close behind, her brother's death fueling her determination. She clutched a rusty sickle, its blade glinting ominously in the moonlight. Samuel, his joints protesting, gripped a small vial, their hope for a swift assault. Caleb, a skilled tracker, brought up the rear, his bow and arrows ready for retribution. Section 2. A Symphony of Chaos. The group slipped through a breach in the manor's crumbling walls, their eyes struggling to adjust to the oppressive darkness within. The air hung thick and heavy, the metallic reek of blood almost unbearable. The silence, broken only by the distant dripping of water, pressed down on them, a suffocating reminder of the horrors that awaited. Following Caleb's lead, they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, their footsteps echoing softly on the cold stone floor. Cobwebs brushed against their faces, and the musty odor of decay filled their nostrils, a testament to the manor's descent into darkness. Each turn, each creaking door, sent their pulses racing, the anticipation almost unbearable. They reached the ballroom doors, their surfaces scratched and scarred as if clawed by a monstrous beast. Thomas, taking a deep breath to steady his nerves, slowly pushed them open, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. The sight that greeted them sent a collective gasp through the group. The ballroom, once a place of grandeur and gaiety, was now a macabre spectacle of suffering. Cages lined the walls, their occupants pale and emaciated, their eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and resignation. Eerie red light pulsed from strange contraptions, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the walls. Section 3. A momentary reprieve. Now! Thomas hissed, his voice barely a whisper in the oppressive silence. Samuel, his hands trembling slightly, approached the nearest cage, his sedative-filled vial glinting in the dim light. He worked quickly, his movements practiced despite his fear, injecting the potent concoction into the limp arm of a young woman. Her eyes fluttered closed, and she slumped against the bars, her breathing slowing as she drifted into a merciful oblivion. Caleb, his movements swift and silent, took aim with his bow, his arrows finding their mark with deadly accuracy. One by one, the pulsating lights flickered and died as his arrows pierced the intricate contraptions, plunging the ballroom into an unsettling darkness. Thomas and Sarah worked in tandem, their combined strength enough to pry open the weakened cage doors. Freed from their metal prisons, the captives stumbled out, their bodies weak and trembling, their eyes wide with confusion and newfound hope. Quietly now, Sarah whispered, her voice laced with urgency. "Follow me." She led the way towards a hidden passage she had discovered earlier, a forgotten servant's route that might offer them a chance to escape the cursed manor. Section 4. The Price of Defiance. Their escape, however, was short-lived. A figure materialized from the shadows, blocking their path. Silas, his eyes glowing with an unholy light, a cruel smirk playing on his lips, stood before them, his presence radiating an aura of power and malice that sent shivers down their spines.
"Leaving so soon," he purred, his voice smooth as silk, yet laced with an underlying menace. "The night is young, and the festivities have just begun."
Behind him, two more figures emerged from the darkness, their fangs bared in silent threat. The townsfolk, weakened and disoriented, huddled together, their newfound hope flickering like a candle in the wind.
"You were fools to defy us," Silas hissed, his gaze sweeping over the terrified faces. "You have only hastened your own demise."
Thomas, his grip tightening on the iron poker, stepped forward, his eyes locked on Silas.
We will not stand by and watch you destroy our town, our families, he growled, his voice hoarse with anger. We may die tonight, but we will take as many of you with us as we can.
The air crackled with tension as Thomas lunged at Silas, his iron poker aimed at the vampire's heart. The vampire, caught off guard, staggered back, his eyes widening in surprise. Sarah grabbed a discarded iron bar and charged, her scream a primal cry of defiance. The townsfolk followed, using whatever weapons they could find to fight back. The ballroom erupted in chaos, a whirlwind of flashing fangs and desperate cries. The air grew thick with the coppery scent of blood. Despite their efforts, the townsfolk were outmatched. One by one, they fell, succumbing to the vampire's superior strength. Sarah watched in horror as Caleb slumped to the ground, an arrow in his chest. Thomas, bloodied but unbroken, continued to fight. He landed a blow on Silas, but it was not enough. As Silas moved in for the kill, a low growl pierced the air. Glowing yellow eyes materialized in the darkness, sending a shiver down Silas's spine. A monstrous howl, primal and filled with a rage older than time, echoed through the ballroom. The monstrous form, hidden in the shadows, moved with a speed that defied its size, slamming into Silas. The vampire was flung against the wall, the impact shaking the manor. A collective gasp arose from the townsfolk as they watched the creature step into the flickering light. It was a creature of nightmares, a werewolf. Its muscles rippled beneath its thick fur, fangs bared, eyes glowing with an intense yellow light. The werewolf turned its gaze upon the vampires, its snarl deepening into a guttural roar. As the dust settled, only the werewolf and a handful of battered townsfolk remained. The creature, its fur matted with blood, turned its gaze upon Thomas, its glowing eyes piercing through the exhaustion. For a moment, their eyes locked, predator and prey, a silent understanding passing between them. Then the werewolf turned and melted back into the shadows, disappearing into the night. Thomas dragged himself to his feet, his gaze falling upon the carnage. Bodies lay scattered across the floor, their lifeless eyes staring vacantly. He had survived, but at a terrible cost. Sarah lay still among the fallen, her hand clutching a blood-soaked sickle. He had lost so much, but Hollow Creek had been freed from the vampire's tyranny, but a new terror, a primal fear, had taken root in his heart. The ordeal had forever changed Thomas, and the once peaceful Hollow Creek would forever bear the scars of the vampire invasion. The townsfolk, those who had survived, emerged from their hiding places, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and apprehension, their eyes constantly scanning the shadows, their senses heightened by the horrors they had witnessed. The fight for Hollow Creek was over, but the story was far from finished. The threat of the supernatural, the knowledge that creatures of darkness lurked just beyond the veil of reality, would forever haunt their waking hours. What became of the werewolf, the enigmatic savior of Hollow Creek? Did it disappear back into the wilderness, its thirst for vengeance satiated? Or did it linger in the shadows, its glowing eyes watching, waiting for the moment to strike again? The answers, dear viewer, lie within your imagination. Was the werewolf a force for good? An instrument of righteous fury unleashed upon the wicked? Or was it merely another monster, a harbinger of a different kind of darkness? Share your thoughts, your fears, your hopes in the comments below. Like this video if you dare, and subscribe to our channel for more tales of terror and suspense. But be warned, once you step into the shadows, there's no turning back.